Welcome to Trauma Philosopher. This is Charlie Inch. Inch Law is the law office that gave birth to Holistic Life Studios, where we're trying to merge conscious professionals with mental health and what I call human experience healers. We have some other things that are going on. Trauma Philosopher itself, actually, we've got a whole philosophy on kind of how trauma seems to be fitting together with all the aspects of what it means to be human. Here with us today is our exciting adventure of discussions with Ashley Coleman, who's here with us today. You've got several businesses, Ashley. I feel as I was getting ready to talk about them, I was like, there's no one that can talk about what you're doing better than you do. So could you, tell everyone what it is that you're doing, and we'll get into it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate you having me. Lovely to be in your space.
Thank
we have
you.
This epic table, and yeah, let's dive in. I'm just going to take a deep breath. That's how I like to start everything. If anybody wants to join me in that, the listeners, Charlie, if you're okay with a little drop in. Wonderful. So I am a person in recovery. I'll start there. I work in recovery, so that's sort of an outlet of my offerings and work. And I also have a business, Winged Alchemy, as like the central piece of what I do. And that's where I do my more esoteric teachings and what I like to call now interfaith spirituality. So one of my most recent certifications is a shamanic minister. So I'm an ordained minister at this point, which is very exciting. And in Winged Alchemy, we have a mystery school, podcasting. I do one-on-one astrology readings every now and then. So I've done a lot of one-on-one offerings, energy medicine, Reiki, shamanic energy medicine. And then the other side is the recovery work. So people who are right off the streets, right out of prison, very early recovery. So that's like a whole different type of teachings that I bring through. So that's really more foundational health and wellness, nervous system, breath, your body. Because for me, addiction is getting out of the body. And then recovery is coming back, recovering the soul. So that's a little intro. And I'm also a musician. I also hold healing spaces in Richmond every now and then, locally, do pop-up events. And so a blend of recovery, interfaith spirituality, and really healing the soul. So that's where I feel like I offer the deepest medicine.
I mean, everything you talk about hits on so many different things that, we have to deal with in the space of, there's an aspect of what I've been doing, and I've been trying to put my finger on it because you can't talk about this work with people that haven't been through hell. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make any sense to those people. And it's like, how do you describe the color red to someone who's like colorblind or hasn't had a chance to see it? So it was so interesting as you were starting to talk about that, because that's really what this all eventually does. Man, there's just so many places. Talk to me a little bit about when we first started talking, we were talking about your first stages and kind of just, and this is by no means an attack on Western medicine or any of those things. Mm-hmm. However, it's true to my story, and that's that I started having some mental health issues as a lawyer, and I think I had them for quite a long time. It's just the fracture of that kind of stress, kind of like it fractures those foundational cracks that were there at the developmental stages. And so, this concept of resilience, eventually whatever is resilient is the thing that you rely on, and it becomes kind of used up, Talk to me about your first experiences with, like, where did you find that you had to go find something else to make you feel better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love what you said about you can't really engage someone who hasn't been to these places. So I love that. And that's what brought me to this work is my inner hell realms, peak intensity. And now I know in studying the cycles of alchemy and soul growth, that peak intensity, it sounds cliche, it sounds repetitive, but I found it true. Peak intensity comes right before the miracle.
Right.
peak depth of hell on earth and pain, you're moments from the miracle. So it started with that. I was in a codependent relationship, using my substance of choice all day, every day, in full survival mode, really not good relationship with food, suffering to the point of feeling completely numb. And I had taken a modern dance class at JSarge, which is a community college. And I was failing out of a community college and just like not in a good place. And I enjoyed modern dance. I got my PE credit. And then I signed up for Yoga 101 course.
How many years ago was this?
This was 2013. Oh, I have it mapped out. Yeah,
Okay.
2013.
Yeah.
And I didn't even need the course, which was interesting. I didn't even need it. Why would I take extra things when I could barely handle what I had? So I took a semester-long yoga course, not even just a 60-minute class, a course where you're diving into the philosophy and the teachings behind the teachings.
Yeah.
And that was divine grace over my life. Like, Ashley, it's time to wake up. So that was like one of those grace moments. And it just brought me back to myself. And that took time, right? But that was the real initiation back into my power, essentially.
I think people are scared of the word alchemy.
Okay.
Okay. I think just generally people that are outside of the space, right? Because even when I was starting to go through my work and not even understanding what trauma was, like there's a whole like dropping into understanding this stuff. I remember the people I was talking to, and this would have been 4 to 5 years ago now. I was like, well, I don't know what you mean by trauma. What are you talking about? And they looked at me like I was a hydra with 8 heads. Like, how is it possible you don't know what trauma is? It's like everywhere, everyone's talking about it. And it wasn't until those first stages that at any point in time it started popping up in my sphere, And so I think for the people that haven't kind of run into that, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions on what addiction looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's another one. It's really easy for us to kind of just apply a different definition to it that has no concept of having that real big question of how much of this could in fact apply to me. If I was, instead of looking for the difference, if I was going to look for where the similarities are.
Yes.
So is there, like, what about that could you talk about, because you had talked about relationship with food and, later on, I think you had mentioned that you had some actual substance addiction is what other people, I think, consider that,
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable sharing which substance that was?
Sure. For me, it was marijuana.
Okay.